Have you ever felt like you've had a wave of exhaustion that just won't let up? Have you lost interest in your work or hobbies? Do you feel emotionally numb or maybe overwhelmed? These are often signs of burnout. Today, we're going to look at what burnout is, what causes it, and how you can recover. Let's go. Hello, welcome back to the Goth Boss podcast. I am your host, Kat Burton, and today we are talking all about burnout. Burnout often creeps up on you. One day, you realize you're feeling kind of tired, uninspired, a bit detached from work or the hobbies you once loved. But the world, your work, keeps telling you to push through. So you keep going, and you keep pushing yourself, you keep working hard. And then one day, you just can't do it anymore. You can't face work. You can't create. You don't want to do your hobbies. You're exhausted, emotional, and feeling completely stuck. Burnout isn't just being tired. It's your body telling you that something is really out of balance. You've done too much for too long without taking care of yourself. It's a warning signal, and one you should listen to as soon as you get it. And while it might feel like you're failing or broken, you're not. You're at an inflection point where you can restore proper balance to your life. Burnout is more common than most people think. Often people just don't talk about it because they're embarrassed, ashamed, and worried what others will think. But it's nothing to be ashamed of. It doesn't make you a failure. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experiences with it to help you see that, we all get it. And hopefully it'll help you feel brave to admit it if you feel like you might be on the way to burnout. So what does burnout look like? It can manifest in different ways for different people, and there are lots and lots of different symptoms. The core symptom is chronic exhaustion, not just feeling tired, but utterly depleted. It's a loss of motivation. You might feel detached or more cynical than usual. Emotionally, you might feel at either end of the spectrum, from completely numbed to overwhelmed by even the smallest of tasks. You might feel like your work is pointless or doesn't matter. And this is often called a functional freeze, where you continue to function and you appear okay to everybody else, but you're completely disconnected from what you're doing and you're struggling on the inside. Physically, the symptoms are what you would expect from a state of prolonged stress or fatigue. Headaches, gut issues, body tension are all common. Do you often feel your shoulders are tight? You're all feeling a bit like stiff and like you can't get comfortable? That's all very common. Often a lot of our stress and pressure goes into our shoulders. You might have trouble sleeping or wake up still feeling really, really tired. And then it's natural to rely on caffeine and sugar to keep you going to power through the day. But then it's a vicious cycle because you have too much caffeine and sugar, you don't sleep as well. So the next day you need even more. And before you know it, you've lost control a bit and you're sort of blocking yourself from feeling the exhaustion. So have a check-in with yourself, see if you're feeling any of those symptoms. Not everybody gets every symptom, but if you're resonating with a few of them, there's a chance you could be burning out. So as always, I want to share honest insights from my own world and my experiences so that hopefully you can relate and hopefully it'll give you the courage to talk about it. I've had a few big burnouts. I'm not going to talk about every single one, but I'm going to tell you about a few key ones that have come up in my career. With hindsight, I'm now able to spot why they happened, but unfortunately in the moment, I was completely unaware I was on a path to burnout. My first burnout happened when I was freelancing, and I kept extending contracts for my clients whenever I was asked. And if you've been freelance, you know what that's like. It can be so hard to find contracts at times, especially with people you like working with. So if an extension is offered, you usually take it. I could feel I was low energy at the point of the extension, but I did it anyway. What's one more week? What's one more month, eh? Until after months with no breaks or holidays, I crumbled. And I mean completely crumbled. One day I just broke down in tears. I had a full panic attack. And then pretty much instantly I got sick. Really, really sick. I got one of those chest infections that just wouldn't shift. You know, when you just feel awful. I felt so poorly and lost. I ended up going to the doctor because I couldn't shift it. They gave me meds to help the infection and told me that I needed to rest and that I should cut my contract short. So that's what I did. I felt like a complete failure for not being able to work. I felt like I'd let everybody down. But I learned a valuable lesson from this burnout. Holidays, breaks, and self-care matter. If you're freelance, you must schedule time off. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that if you take a week off, it's lost earnings. Your business will be fine if you take a break. In fact, you and your business will do better because you're able to focus and get more done. If you're an employee rather than freelance, please do book your holidays. Holidays are there to be used. I am sick of hearing people say that it's not a race to zero to spend your holidays. Use them. They are there to help you keep your energy levels up. They're for self-care. It's so you can enjoy your life. Keep yourself energized and avoid burnout. The second burnout I want to tell you about happened later. It was when I was working on a project that required me to be in meetings. And not just some meetings. We're talking 5 or more meetings a day. They were all seemingly essential to keep up with the pace required for the project, and they would be back to back. It was so hard to take a break. I couldn't collect my thoughts between calls or even use the bathroom sometimes. The workload was too high, and I felt like I had no room to breathe. I felt trapped at my desk on a call. And unfortunately, I felt like there wasn't really anyone I could talk to about it. And I did it for as long as I could. I tried so hard. And then once again, I crumbled. And for me, I had exactly the same symptoms. I was overwhelmed emotionally. I would feel exhausted. I would cry. I would have these panics. And that chest infection, it came back. It came back. And it wouldn't go. And so again, I went to the doctor. And I was signed off of work, given meds, and honestly, I felt like a complete failure. I felt really embarrassed, and again, I felt like I was letting people down. But the lessons I learned from this second burnout is that symptoms, for me at least, are often similar each time. I can now spot the pattern. I can see, oh, I'm getting exhausted, and I'm a little bit more emotional. I'm not as grounded. I'm not as happy as I was. I'm not doing my hobbies. And I just want to crash and burn at the weekends. And I feel like I'm getting sick more often. And that's my red flag. That's when I know I need to stop. That second burnout made me so much more mindful of people's struggles with workloads, especially my own. Since then, I pace things much more reasonably for myself and I protect my time so that I can take breaks. I'm also very protective of my teams to ensure they don't burn out. You will never catch me pushing a team to work relentless hours because it's not sustainable. Sometimes in short bursts, yes, but not prolonged. So since those 2 burnouts, I've had one more big one and a few more close calls. I am getting better at listening to my brain and body when I'm feeling depleted, but it's really not easy because often you're stuck in it day to day and it's a gradual decline. So there's no one big moment usually until you do break. Like many people, I was raised to work really, really hard and to be a people pleaser. I often feel lazy if I do nothing. And I feel incredibly guilty for saying no. I'm sure many of you will relate to that. But please remember it's okay to say no. And it's not lazy to take time for yourself. It's self-care. And that's essential. So what causes burnout? My experience hopefully highlighted a few, but here's a little checklist for you. It's constantly giving 100% when not every day is a 100% day. It's a lack of rest, a lack of breaks, far too many meetings. It's people pleasing and a lack of boundaries. You need to know when to say no and protect your peace. It's perfectionism. Learn to know when something is good enough and you can just stop. It can come from pressure to monetize everything you do, even your hobbies. But sometimes your hobbies should stay exactly that, just a hobby. You don't need to turn everything into paid work. Once you make a hobby into your revenue stream, it can often lose its fun, and it means you don't enjoy it at the end of the day. So just be careful with where you monetize your hobbies and your passions. Burnout can come from emotional labor and invisible workload. If you're constantly supporting someone, shouldering a burden, it will take its toll. Many of us have invisible workloads, those thankless tasks we do anyway, and they all add up. It can come from a lack of autonomy or control. And that's especially common in the creative industries where you're often doing work you're passionate about, but sometimes you have no decision-making power. Burnout regularly comes from a mismatch between our values and our work. When your job or environment contradicts your internal compass, your beliefs, or who you are in your soul, your body will let you know. And finally, it's living in survival mode for too long. That is a surefire way to burn out, especially post-pandemic, after layoffs, or if you've been put on notice of redundancy. There's this long tail of stress that doesn't get acknowledged. Day-to-day stress is brutal and it will chip away at you. So how can you recover if you're suffering from burnout or think you might be on the way to it? First, let's talk about rest. Often we stop and we rest once we hit a breaking point. You know those weekends where all you want to do is crash and burn, lie on the sofa and do nothing? That's not self-care. That's aftercare. You need to stop before you hit that breaking point. Keep your battery topped up rather than letting it get to zero. Self-care is making sure you always have the energy to do things you love. And resting doesn't have to look like loads of sleep or zoning out on the sofa. It's taking time to do something you enjoy. Do something that makes you feel good. Go for a walk, paint a mini, read a book, spend time with friends. Do anything that means you're not thinking about work. I'd also recommend finding an app that does guided meditation. Listening to a person's voice will give you something to focus on instead of your thoughts. So if you really struggle to switch off, it can help you slow your brain down and enter a more restful state. Another way to begin recovering is to start enforcing some boundaries. Now, setting boundaries for the first time can feel incredibly uncomfortable. I've only just started learning this at 40 years old. I started doing it last year and crikey, did it feel uncomfortable. But I feel so much happier and so much more comfortable in my life. Boundaries can be used at work and in your personal life. And a big win for burnout is to set a digital boundary. Our phones are a non-stop source of stress and notifications. Turn off notifications if you can. If you can't, schedule them so that they only happen within work hours. Remove Slack from your phone if you can. If you can't, ask yourself why you think you can't. Often you need to travel for work, and it's okay to have them on your phone then. But ask yourself, do you still really need it at home? Do you need it on there every day? Is it because someone told you that you must have it on there? Or is it because you do it because you feel pressured, a sense of guilt, like you need to always be on? Because that is what I used to do. And it's not healthy. It means you can't relax or enjoy your evenings, your lunch breaks, your breaks during the day, your weekends. If no one has told you to put Slack on your phone or emails, take them off. Digital boundaries are also essential for social media. The constant comparison to others, that habitual checking out of the app, we all do it and it's exhausting. Have you ever picked up your phone, checked Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever, close the app, 2 minutes later, open it up, check, and you're like, no one's posted in 2 minutes and nothing's that urgent. But it's habitual and it's really, really tricky to break that cycle. Try to break your habit if you can. If you're impulsively checking them, try and stop it. The best way to do that is try and keep your phone in another room at times, even if just for half an hour or an hour, or maybe while you're focusing on work, so you can avoid the temptation to open social media for the 100th time that day. Takes a bit of time, but the more you can detach from it, it means you're empowered to check it when you do want to, rather than that weird habitual checking that we often do. If you find yourself constantly exhausted at the end of a work day with zero energy to do the things you love, and you just want to crash and burn, ask yourself if there's a way you can pace yourself better. Say no to things more often. Be brave. Delegate if you can. Speak to a colleague, speak to your manager. And I don't know about you, but I often feel like I can't do like solid 8-hour days for long stretches of time. I can do it infrequently, but then I need a big rest. And the reason for that is I actually work best in short, intense bursts. I do a lot of work in focus periods of 30 minutes to an hour. And after that, I need a rest. And I feel like many people can relate to that. I've talked to a lot of friends who say they have the same, where they get really focused on something and they blitz it and then they're exhausted. So they need to take a break. So please work in the way that works for you. And again, if you feel like the way you're expected to work doesn't work for you, please speak to your manager, speak to a colleague, because if your way of working doesn't fit the average model, but you still get your work done, hopefully they will support you in it and they will help you find ways to work in ways that suit your brain, because we are all different. If you work remotely, like I do, it can often be really, really hard to remember to take breaks. You can often feel like you need to always be on, always be ready to check Slack or emails so that people don't think you're slacking off, right? Pun not intended. But you also don't have colleagues to go chat to while you're making a coffee, or things to distract you other than often laundry and home chores. There's no one to break you out of that work cycle and just give you a little context switch. So if you work from home, set a timer, work for a while, and then take a break. Get out for a walk at lunchtime. Go to your little local coffee shop, grab a coffee and say hello to the barista. Do something that just snaps you out of work for a bit and gives your brain a chance to just rest. Again, even if it's just for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. And if your work is causing you to burn out because you can't switch off, and if you're not able to follow these tips, please ask yourself, is it better to have a 9 to 5 where you can switch off at the end of the day, where you still have energy for your hobbies and your passions, and where you don't have to worry about work outside of those hours? Your work doesn't have to be your purpose and your passion. It's nice if it can be, but it's okay for passions to exist outside of work, as long as your work leaves you with enough energy to enjoy them. We're often told to do things we love for work, but sometimes that can need us to put too much into it. So please take a look at your work, your workload, and have an honest conversation with yourself about whether it's worth it and if there's anything you can do to improve it. Your mental health and enjoying life is far more important. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself permission to step back. And if you can, speak to someone, a therapist, a coach, a friend. Burnout is isolating, and naming it out loud can be really, really powerful. Speaking with someone will help you untangle what's going on. They'll help you find a way to take ownership of your time. And sometimes you just need someone to give you permission to look after yourself. Okay, so that's all for today's episode. I hope that helps you know how to spot it, and hopefully you can implement some of those tips to prevent you from getting burnout or help you feel better if you're already there. Please remember, rest is not a reward, it's part of the process and we all need it. Look after yourself. Please keep your battery fully topped up, and I will see you next time. Bye.